So, this is our Airstream Argosy, and I have fallen in love with it from the minute I saw it. I remember the very first day that I saw it, I was like, I can't believe this might be reality. This actually might become ours. And we had convinced the woman in Kentucky to let us sleep in it overnight before making a final decision on it. And that night was the most sleepless night I had ever had. I couldn't stop envisioning life in it. I was so excited and almost so disturbed that like this whole idea of what I thought we wanted was actually becoming a potential reality, and that was so hard to grasp. And so we slept on it overnight, ended up buying it the very next day and driving home to Atlanta, the longest drive of my entire life.
Like, I remember the first time we actually thought about a whole camper or RV was
I mean, I don't even think that we were even in that realm of thinking.
No, we wanted to minimalize, but we hadn't really thought of it until we had taken a group to the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
And we had done the whole rental van, the whole booked everybody's room, lodging, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so we got to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and we saw people in their campers in the Khalib National Forest hanging out.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh my God, what a brilliant idea.
Well, also, gosh, I would really love to just live there for a time.
Right. And that's kind of really where the whole idea of, we could go on all these trips, take people on all these trips, but instead of us meeting them at the airport, which most guide services, you have to meet literally at the trailhead. But we were meeting people at the airport, shuttling everyone back and forth. But like, we could just like chill out, at the visitor center or by the visitor center and like cut our cost in half. And that's really where the whole idea was born, to start living in an RV.
Right.
And start traveling and meeting people at the trailhead.
Right. And then when we got home from the trip, we started thinking a lot more about it, and we're like, well, I'm not really sure if we want an RV. And so it kind of fell to the wayside for a while.
Right.
Several months, we got on with our daily lives. We forgot about this like whole idea of being in the Grand Canyon, in an RV. And then we're scrolling through like these like upcoming events in the area, and Scott goes, hey, there's a tiny home show happening. It's about 2 hours, east of us. And we're like, okay, we have nothing going on. Let's go do it.
Let's go check out the tiny homes.
And so we're like really excited to go see these tiny homes. We get there, and it's pretty much just a free-for-all for everybody to sell buildings.
It was like a whole building show, really, what they all end up being. But the funny thing is that there were people that had been on the HGTV show, and Tiny Home Nation, and Tiny House Hunters. There's a lot of shows, but there were people there from the show. And I wanted to specifically ask them questions. So I had like a list of questions in my mind. And the funny thing is, it didn't really take long
to realize that we did
not want a tiny home. And I think it had a lot to do, we're being a guy for, like my questions were, what's the weight capacity? What kind of truck do I need to pull it?
How realistic is it to tow?
Yeah. Like, I'd like to live up in the mountains and catch some trailheads and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, no, you're not gonna be able to do that. I'm like, well, how heavy is your home? It's like 15,000 pounds. It's like, well, we need a semi truck.
So then we started, there were a lot of people parked nearby that were living just in camper vans, and converted this, that, and the other, and we had met Gypsy, and we started realizing how snug of a lifestyle it would be going more extremely small than we were already accustomed. I mean, we had been sleeping in the back of our truck for a long time, and there was definitely some frustrations involved in that. Obviously, it wasn't built for that, so it was more just, you know, making it work for us in that moment. But
yeah, we were like in Arizona for like 3 weeks in a Jeep, and we were fine. We didn't have any problem.
But I think when you get lulled into this idea of, oh, this is going to become my 24/7 lifestyle, this is going to be my home, you start tricking yourself into believing that you need more space.
Right.
Which
is not really true at all.
Totally the opposite of what we were attempting to do, is like completely minimize our lifestyle. And so you have the battle of these two thoughts constantly, you know, butting heads and thinking, well, I need more space, or I really don't want more space, and I need something bigger, but I really want something smaller. And so we battled that for the whole show, and we walked. The saddest part is we went to be inspired, and we walked away defeated. Like, oh my God, I'm never buying a tiny home. I'm going to get a van. We had met Gypsy. Gypsy was we don't even know why Gypsy was there. He lived in a little camper trailer, you know, and he was just really happy. And we met him. He's like, oh yeah, I break down, blah, blah, blah. We looked inside, and he's like, I got everything I need. And so it was really funny because Gypsy was the one who wasn't really part of the home show. I think he was just boondocking at the home show. He was.
Which was really funny because he had some of the longest lines for people to see. I don't even think Gypsy was part of the show, and people were like, oh man, yeah, that's what I want.
Right.
You know? So we ended up talking to him, and we ended up knowing some of the same people from some of the Burning Man events and some of the burning stuff in Georgia. And so we started talking to them, and we're like, yeah, this is kind of more our style.
Well, so we go to leave, and we're like, okay, well, that was productive and completely unproductive all at the same time. And you know, at the end of the day, it was just a fun Saturday. And we get into our car, and we had a prime parking space because we were one of the first, you know, individuals to get there. We were so excited to go and be inspired by the show. And we get into our car, and Scott sees something off to the side in a completely different parking lot.
In a completely different field.
And quite honestly, it was like the skies were illuminating it. Yeah. Even though it wasn't.
It's kind of like the Blues Brothers movie when the beam of light comes through and he goes, oh! It was really kind of like that. It seemed like the sun was beaming on this camper trailer, which looked really cool.
So we disappointed a lot of people waiting in line for our spot. We got back out of the cars, much to their dismay, walked across the street into this other parking lot, and we saw that there was a for sale sign in the window of what we thought was an Airstream. But we weren't quite sure because it was painted white.
It was painted white. Right.
So we walked in, we started talking to this, you know, we walked towards the camper, started talking to the gentleman inside who owned it. Come to find out, it's an Argosy model of Airstreams, which is one of the lightest weight. It was during a phase in the 70s where it was all about lightweight, and they used different types of aluminum,
sometimes lighter
aluminum
and stuff,
in which was paintable, and thus they were able to get that weight down to significant factors. And so it was this whole push, and it only lasted several years. Well, thus the Argosy Airstream was born, and that's why it was painted. So we walk in, we're like, well, we would love to see inside. The minute we stepped foot inside, Scott and I just looked at each other and we're like,
sold.
Crap.
Yeah. I mean, we knew exactly what we wanted because it was just our style. You know how you look at things and you're like, but that moment you connect to that thing that is just so your style.
It had the perfect amount of space without it being too much space. It was confined, but it was open, and the windows had a lot to do with it. So this particular model, 1970 Airstream Argosy. Ended up having, this is the year in which they made panoramic windows both in the front and the back, and so the amount of light that was coming in was
crazy,
just so unbelievable. And we have been living in, we're outdoor people, and this is our life, and we had spent the last year and a half in a very small apartment that had only one front facing window, and so we always felt like we were lacking light.
Right.
And when we walked in and felt like, oh, we're looking for our new home, we're looking for the new lifestyle, the amount of light definitely.
We couldn't believe how much light. I've never seen so much light coming in a camper van or a trailer ever. I mean, it was just like, it was crazy amount of how much light there was.
And we were only in there for probably 10 minutes and fell in love with it. Talked to him about selling it. He was like, yeah, I'm looking at, like $11,000, and we're like, ooh, this is way out of our price range. We walked away just going, oh, wouldn't that be nice? And by the end of the 2.5 hour car ride home, somehow we had convinced ourselves that we were going to make an offer. And we did. And we did. We made the offer. It ended up getting rejected because he ultimately, I guess, he had so much interest.
And every time we made him offer, he wanted more money. We're like, we're not playing this game.
So we walked away from the deal. He walked away from the deal. Ultimately, actually kept it rather than selling it. And we were thus on a hunt to find this exact same Airstream Argosy somewhere. And we ended up finding it in Kentucky. We found a less expensive offer on the table. It wasn't as beautiful, definitely needed a lot more work. And we decided to take a chance because it felt like the right thing. And we had also tricked ourselves into believing that we couldn't do without. So we did. And we ended up driving to Kentucky and doing about I think it ended up being like an 18-hour negotiation deal.
It's a whole nother story.
But it was ours. It was ours. And I love everything about it. I love the shape. I love how narrow it is. I love how short it is. I love so much about the light that comes in and the feel, because what Airstreams offer you is this just very, it's not square, so it doesn't feel like a home. It doesn't feel like you're boxed into four walls. It feels as though you're very immersed in the outdoors is your indoors. And it's almost like a sphere of the world, and it really does make you feel that way. You don't feel boxed in, you feel connected to the outside, and the amount of light it's intoxicating, to be honest.
I think for me, Argosy was probably the best type of trailer that we could find. Only because, because we're outdoor people. When we wake up in the morning, we want to see the outdoors. We want to be a part of it, and so the panoramic windows in front and back, by far, was the selling point in the Argosy. I think after everything else, we felt that, yeah, we could do this. We could fix it up and we could restore it, which really is the whole journey of being nomadic, and the whole journey of what we're trying to do was, originally we thought, it's going to take maybe, a few months, 4 to 5 months, we'll strip it, gut it, fix it, but it's really been so much more than that, because of what every time we turn around we think, well, we should do this, or we need that. And so now our Argosy from 1976 has really become a completely eco-friendly Airstream, which we don't have a hot water heater, or we don't have we don't have a furnace. we have a wood burning stove, we have an on-demand water heater. And so everything that we put in has been kind of a reflection of who we are and what we're about as far as our nomadic idea, and you know, really what we want this Airstream to be when we're pulling it down the road. So it's really been kind of a cool journey. It's been a long journey. We do see light at the end of the tunnel, and so we've been able to pull it and you know, hitch it up and, you know, take it around and live in it and cook in it, and it's been really cool so far. So but yeah, the Argosy is we love it. It's kind of like it's just like that person you see in the crowd that stands out for some reason. You're like, what's your story? And that's really the Airstream Argosy, and that's why we love it so much. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up. We got a lot more coming around. Please subscribe, hit the little bell on our YouTube channel, so that way you get a notification every time we put a new video up. And thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.